Hi everyone, my name's Mark LeMay, and today myself, along with Ashley and Shania and Jorge, we're going to talk about the opioid epidemic within Massachusetts and how it's been rampant and out of control for the last 20 years. A little bit how it's come to be, maybe what we can do about it as a society. But realistically, there's not one person out there nowadays that does not know someone somehow that has been affected by opioid addiction. I don't care where they come or what status they are in this state or around the country, whether you're in school, at work, but more particularly at home. This is not an epidemic of the forgotten people out there. This is not about people that we don't see in daily lives. This is about brothers and sisters and cousins and fathers and daughters and sons. Past perceptions have always been, it's not going to happen to anyone I know. I don't hang out with those people. What's an addict, right? Who's an addict? Who are these people? That's gone. That's out the window. Therefore, we are losing friends and loved ones and family members to an opioid epidemic and invasion. But what can we do as a society to stop it? What? I have had personally watched how addiction can destroy a person along with all the people they know and love. Lying, deception, furthered by the manipulation, the stealing. It destroys families. It's happened to part of my family. I'm sure other people have the same story. It's funny, I was just watching the Celtics the other night, and it makes me think of a story of, there was a documentary done by Chris Herron. He used to be a Celtics player, but he was actually a star high school player with Durfee High School on the South Shore. And he suffered through addiction his whole college career, and then unfortunately his cut short professional career. Yeah, he did play for the Celtics, and he talked about playing right before a game, and he would be so amped up, he would have to get his fix somehow. He'd actually call his dealer, and he would have to go meet him out in front of the street on Causeway Street right before the game, and get his oxy to play the rest of the game. Ashley will discuss in a few minutes about a little more in detail about statistical data from mass.gov, how opioid overdoses and deaths are everywhere. It's not just in certain cities, it's in every single town in the Commonwealth, no matter how you cut it. She'll dive deeper into some of the bigger cities that have a lot more problems, but this is real. A few years ago, Purdue Pharma, they're actually the ones who made OxyContin, right? Back in the late 90s. They filed for bankruptcy because they were sued, and they actually were forced to pay out over $6 billion to victims of OxyContin overdose, people of addiction, hospitals, different facilities that to which they were subjected to the deceptive practices of handing out this medications at such ease. Shania will actually discuss a little bit more about the big pharma's role in this in a little bit later. But really, where do we go from here as a society? What can we do to end this and enact more resources with our state and local governments, treatment centers for those in need, beds, people that really need serious help? To conclude our talk, Jorge will kind of wrap things up and also discuss a little bit of our community campaign to bring more awareness to this, to lawmakers, state and local officials, and more importantly, just everyday people who don't think opioids will ever affect them or their families. This is real, and I hope you watch this. I'm going to turn this over to Ashley now. Thank you.
Like Mark said, we are losing friends, loved ones, and family members to this opioid invasion. Personally, having watched my cousin fight through this awful disease to unfortunately lose his battle to an untimely death. Did you know that in 2021, the opioid related death rate is 6.2% higher than that of 2016 and is 9% increase over 2020? Statistics can be found at www.mass.gov/lists/current-opioid-statistics. Roughly the same number of people died of an opioid related cause in 2016 as died from HIV and AIDS in 1995 at the height of the HIV and AIDS epidemic. More people died from opioid related causes than from motor vehicle accidents in 2016. Driven by the opioid epidemic, more Americans died from the drug overdoses in 2016 than the number of Americans who died fighting in the entire Vietnam War. In Massachusetts, over 2,000 people died from the opioid overdoses in 2019, at a rate of 29 deaths per 100,000 people. This is nearly double the national average of 14.6 deaths per 100,000 people. In 2019, 181 Boston residents died from opioid overdoses. The city nearly had twice as many fatal overdoses as any other city in Massachusetts. Boston being located in Suffolk County, and per capita, the overdose rate in this county is 26.88 per 100,000 people, making this county ninth in the state for overdoses. Fall River in Bristol County and their area has the second highest rate of fatal opioid overdoses in the state. Annually, there are 39.01 deaths per 100,000 residents. In Worcester, there were 97 fatal overdoses in 2019. This is the second highest number of deaths in the state, and it also represents one of the highest per capita death rates. The surrounding county of Worcester has the fourth highest rate of opioid deaths per capita. In this county, there were 34.06 deaths per 100,000 people. Springfield is one of the very worst places in the states for opioid abuse. The town sits in Hampden County, where the death rate is 44.22 per 100,000 people. This is the highest rate in the state, and it's over 3 times the national opioid overdose rate. Hampden County also has one of the highest rates of opioid prescriptions in the state. In 2019, 4.5% of residents received a prescription for opioids. All this information can be found at bedrock-cities-ma.opioid-abuse. In 2020, the age-adjusted rate of drug overdose deaths increased 31% compared to 2019. Adults aged 35 to 44 experienced the highest rate of drug overdose deaths in 2019, while young people aged 15 to 24 experienced the greatest percentage increase in deaths. We must continue in our efforts in all aspects of our fight against substance use disorder and the opioid epidemic.
Another important aspect of the opioid crisis is the role of pharmaceutical companies. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, from 2000 to 2018, the cumulative revenue of companies in the pharmaceutical dataset was $11.5 trillion. The biggest pharmaceutical companies in the U.S. are Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Roche, just to name a few. But the one that I'm going to speak about today is Purdue Pharma. Purdue Pharma was founded in 1892, and initially they sold earwax and laxatives. Then, in 1952, it was sold to the Sackler family. According to research from the Harvard School of Public Health, in the mid-1990s, Purdue Pharma promoted the use of OxyContin. As we know, OxyContin is used for pain relief, but it's also highly addictive. This drug was approved by the FDA, and it eventually triggered the first wave of deaths linked to the use of legal prescription drugs. Here the issue is that The main goal of businesses is to make a profit, and in this case, pharmaceutical companies are trying to make a profit at the expense of people's lives. Purdue Pharma was falsely selling this drug to healthcare providers and telling them that it wasn't addictive as it really was. As a result of that, they have received a lot of backlash, and they have even been served with lawsuits from the families of individuals who have passed away from drug overdoses. This just comes to show that the drug crisis that we are experiencing in the US is not just an individual issue, but it's also an issue all across the board, from healthcare facilities to the pharmaceutical companies that they come from. There needs to be more investigation into these pharmaceutical companies to make sure that they're not taking advantage of patients who are going in to their doctor who they trust and who they know is going to bring them pain relief or is going to help them get pain relief. But these same doctors are getting their information from people who don't care about the livelihood of their consumers. Therefore, I think it's also an important issue that should be presented when speaking about the opioid crisis, instead of pointing fingers at the individual, and also removing the stigma of individuals and their drug use, and because I feel like it is a bigger issue than just someone taking drugs. It's where they come from, who is allowing this, and that.
Hello, teammates, professor, and classmates. As you guys have seen, opioid epidemic is definitely no joke. And it is a topic that not only needs to be addressed, it needs to be solved right now. It is crazy to think that a little pill like this one right here could torn many families apart, destroy lives, and eventually leading to the path of death. Oxycodone, it is the name of the opioid, was created by a company native of our own region of New England, based in Stamford, Connecticut, Purdue Pharma. They created this drug that was allegedly going to help with people that had really bad and strong chronic pain. It was seen as a magical pill. And back in the 90s, when the first wave started, physicians, what now, it's a 5 pill, a 20 pill doses, used to be in digits of 30. So 30, 60, 90. They would prescribe the patient more pills than the ones that he or she needed. And this is when the problem started. People that had leftover pills started abusing them, selling them. And that eventually led to what we know as the opioid epidemic. You know, Purdue Pharma, it's a company, like I said, based in New England, that nowadays already filed for bankruptcy because it was sued for $6 billion. They filed for bankruptcy in 2019, and it is a company that's been prosecuted by so many people in the United States. The FDA approved oxycodone use in the 1995, and it was probably one of the biggest mistakes. The second wave came in the 2010 era, and this time it came because internet and online prescriptions were a thing, and many people took advantage of that. Back in the day, you could refill as many as you wanted, order as many as you want online, and there was no track of it. And that's when people started to use this drug. And eventually, they would use oxycodone as a gateway drug to try many different things, like, for example, heroin, black tar heroin. what is our point with this presentation, with this group speech? We want to reach lawmakers, government officials, and representatives. We want to be heard. We want to have this topic solved. We want to create and raise awareness of how this situation is affecting everybody, because there's common belief that, oh, it only affects people, from this and that background. Opioid epidemic does not see race, origin, religion, economic status. As Mark said, there's professional athletes that already suffer from opioid addiction. We plan to create pamphlets and distribute them around key points of multiple cities to target people and show them our data. We want to have talks with college students, which are the students that tend to try most of the drugs, and educate them on how these drugs will eventually lead them to bad paths or eventually death. We want to raise awareness. We want our representatives to bring funds and help us build more rehab homes, more beds, more programs to help the people that want to get out of this situation. And how do we plan to do that? Creating social programs with volunteers, workshops that will eventually lead to educating the community, and hopefully having the sponsors from big companies wanting to help and supporting financially our cause. With this being said, I would like to thank everybody on my team for sticking all semester, also my classmates, and thank you very much, Professor, for giving us the chance of being in your class. Thank you so much.